Okay, third video on Bach Chorale, BWV 7.7. I'll put links to the first video and the second video. First video we did cadences and talked about key areas and a few other part writing interesting things that happen. Second video we analyzed the first three phrases according to the keys that were suggested by the cadences, and the actual music was there. Okay. And this one, we're going to finish off the next four phrases. It's actually three more phrases and then a final phrase is the way I think of it. And we'll talk about maybe why this is so long and why the keys are the way they are and stuff. Okay, so looks like we're in the key of B minor with the major, and this could have ended here. This feels to me like the beginning actually of a new section completely, right? And I think it sounds that way too. Like just at the beginning here, first off, having the authentic cadence in B minor and having it be a picardy third makes this really feel like the end of a chorale. So it's like, it's not, but it's the end of the section. It feels like this is a section into itself. But then, see how the beginning starts on E minor like this? And it has passing notes going up and then, you know, rises up in the E minor chord. Well, it does the same thing here. Now it's arranged a little differently with the passing notes being down here, and then this is inverted so that you get a top line there, but it's exactly the same. So it really makes me, like I hear the beginning of this right here, it sounds like, well, I'm in E minor, right? And then down here, after I've done this and I've finished ostensibly what sounds like finishing the piece, right? Then it starts up again with the same chords, just revoiced a little bit, and then it's like same figuration, even like, right? And it's just like it's like 2.0 of this, right? So I think we're back just immediately in the key of E minor. If you are against that, you know, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm telling you how I hear it. They just listen to it, play it, sing it, you'll start to see there's these parallels there, and this is such a strong signal in his chorales that the section or the actual chorale's done. So we have a 1, and this is a 1-6. These are my non-chord tones right there and there. It's just revoiced from there, and then we would expect then, if it's sort of analogous, we'll see a D chord and a G chord, and we have them right here. It's just pushed over one beat because, surprise, he's giving us value. He puts the 5 of the D chord right there. Also, see this C sharp come creeping back in? That means we're heading to the key of B, because E minor is 1 sharp, F sharp, and B minor is F sharp and C sharp, and it's happening, right? They're in the key signature, so sometimes I get blind to them. I've marked them in, okay? So let's interpret this. You can say, we're already in the key of B minor once you hear these. But I like to interpret this part at the top here similarly to this, because I feel like they're analogs. And so this is the 5 of my subtonic 7 right there, right? Which is what happened. We went 1 and then subtonic 7, and 3 is right there. However, the C sharps undercut that. So whether it's here or here, and I'm gonna do it here, just because that's the first place we hear different, what's the word I want to use? Like different information that says we're not in this key anymore, right? So that's this is my 3 chord right here, right? So this will be my 5 of 3. Right? By the way, if you're tracking modulations as a second year, this is called a phrase modulation, where we just pick up at a new phrase and change key. Right? Anytime you repeat back to a key that you're not in as well, although this one's fine, that's a phrase modulation, as opposed to a mid-phrase modulation, which can be pivot chord or something like that. And this is using an altered chord as a pivot chord modulation, which is where the chord that you're pivoting on is chromatically altered from the key that you're in. And we were in E minor, and this is not part of the key. So this would be that. And so now I'm back in the key of B minor, right? And here's my D chord, which would be 3, right? And now I'm not going to interpret this as the 3 in the old key. I'm just going to keep going in this key right here. So G is my 6, right? Okay, and 3 down to 6 is a perfect 5th, and then it comes down and goes 4, 5, 1. 6 likes to go to 4, like that. I want to point out maybe my favorite part of this piece is that right there. It looks like a suspension, right? There's my C sharp from here, and it should have gone up, resolved up to a D, or it could have free resolved down to the A. Instead, he holds it over as a suspension. Makes me want to call this a 3 major 7, although I just don't know how common that is from the time period. Somebody with more experience might just say, nah, I wouldn't do that. It's just a suspension. But it is the best sound ever. I'm going to play through here, and when you get there, it is the most beautiful thing to hear this open voiced major 7 chord with this beautiful third way up high, and that just is, yeah, it sounds like the most beautiful jazz that I've heard in a long time. So from the beginning of the measure, where, and then that's the first one, and here's my 5 of, and then you just hear this note right there stays there. It's so great. And then we get our cadence, and we come down from heaven. Right? It's so good. Oops, sorry. Ruined it right there. Not looking at my fingers. Right. So great, that. I'm just going to play that one more time from the E minor. You're from the beginning of the measure where we're there. And it's like, right? It's so, and I, I think I'm going to just stop for a minute before we change pages here and talk about maybe why this is anguishing between E minor and to B minor, which is, like, if this is the key I'm in, then why is the E minor there? This chorale is a setting of Martin Luther's writings on baptism, actually, and being redeemed. And there's something from the Baroque period called Doctrine of Affections, where they thought different music styles and gestures and things would evoke certain emotions and feelings and things like that. This isn't quite that, because they would be like saying very, very local things like big leaps are expanding and open and they represent joy, and contraction and small leaps and things closing in is like shame or guilt or sadness or things like that, and pride had different motives and things. I mean, it's related to that because it's trying to express an idea. It's also not text painting, which is a Renaissance idea that, especially in the madrigals from England and Italy towards the end of the Renaissance, where they would make the notes do what the words were saying. And that's very literal. So if you look at like John Farmer's Fair Phyllis, I saw sitting all alone, the first line is Fair Phyllis, I saw sitting all alone. And that would just be one soloist singing that, because it's Fair Phyllis, I saw sitting all alone. And then the next thing is where the entire ensemble comes in and goes, feeding her flock near to the mountainside. And that's representing the flock, or at least illustrating it, not representing it. When they sing at the end, the shepherds knew not whether she was gone, and then they go searching for her up and down, then the music goes up and down and up and down and up and down. It's not that either. But he seems to be struggling with this lower idea of E minor, because the words are talking about how mortal eyes only see the water being poured, but faith and spirit helps you understand that it's the blood of Christ turning that red and washing us, clean from not only the sins of, like, remember this is from that time, they go, the sins inherited from Adam, and I think that's the foibles of being mortal, and then the last line is also even the things that we inflict on ourselves through our own behaviors and things, and so I feel like this is this message of we're down here in this E minor, right? And eventually we can ascend to not just B minor, but the Picardy third at the end, there, like that. And so it gives us weird key relationships, and especially long and sort of noodling, meandering, struggling kind of set of cadences and things like that. But you know, I see that here. There's such a beautiful bittersweetness about that. Okay, you can tell I'm in love with this section. I really do just think that's fabulous. So unexpected. All right, I'm going to go on. I blubbered enough on that. Let's talk about these here. So we're in B minor. This is our launch into the second half, right? And I just want to point out that if it was 3 phrases at the begin with and it stopped with a B major Picardy third authentic cadence, the next one starts in E minor and goes to B minor. We have a half cadence here, and then we end in E minor, like we're in a fallen state, because this is the line where it's like, you know, it's going to it will save us from the sins and foibles and things that we got from being mortal, being born of Adam. And I think this is like representing mortal man, right? Like our fallen state. I'm not preaching Martin Lutheranism or Christianity or anything per se, but I'm just trying to help you understand why I think this is the way it is, right? And then the last one is, you know, the line is, you know, and also the things that we have done to ourselves or committed, you know, to hurt ourselves as well. But the line goes up high and then ends in this, and I feel like this is him saying, but we can be redeemed through God, right there. All right, so let's go on here. All right, so we ended up in the key of B minor, right? And whereas the next phrase after that up here in the first part started with a 5 chord that was F sharp minor and was like, doesn't have the leading tone into there, this one does. I think there's an analog here, right? So this is 5, but it's a real 5 chord, and that's my 1. And so you can see on the second phrase here, it did 5-1, but this is like 5-1, okay? And then let's see what happens here. So this gets really messy because I could find all these other chords in between here. I don't want to do too much of that. I think that what's really happening is this. We have a C sharp diminished and a C sharp half diminished, which is ostensibly the same chord going to D. That's what happens. And this G chord here in the middle is like filler or travel, like ground you must travel through to get there, right? Maybe. Okay, so that being said, then C sharp is the 7 of D because diminished chords are 7s, right? Okay, so that would be 7, and this is the third, so diminished 6 of D, and D is my 3, right, which is the relative major. And that actually kind of echoes the idea of going from the minor to the relative major again, like they did in the first phrase right there. This G chord we can just sub in here as the 6 chord that it is. That's fine, because 3 likes to go to 6, down a 5th. And then it pops out again and says, oh, by the way, like, we're just going to do that again in case you forgot. So C sharp, right? E, B, and G. C sharp, E, G. That's my C sharp diminished, and B makes it half diminished, holding over like that. So this is my C sharp half diminished of 3. Right? And then that's my D chord right there, which is 3, like that. Okay. Now I think we can just go 5-1-5 there as it comes back around, because D is my, we've got a pivot here, right? Okay. D is my subtonic 7 of that. So you can pivot on that, or you could call this your pivot chord and call it 6 equals 3 for that. Either one, right? And then this is the passing set of notes here. F sharp, A, E, C natural. And I just want to point that out again. It was C sharp on the way up, and on the way down it's this, because we are modulating back to the key of E minor. You see this half cadence right there? I mean, it's not super firm because it's a half cadence, but it's 5-1-5. And so, interestingly enough, F sharp half diminished, which is made right here, is actually, I'm running out of room here, I'm just going to write this up here, is actually 2, and it's in, you know, half diminished, it's in 6-5, right? Which is a nice chord to bring us into there. And, you know, Bach did that intentionally. That also tells us we're, like in our ears, that we're coming back to the key of E minor, because it gets rid of the C sharp from the key of B. right? Again, destabilizing, introducing, scale, material, strong cadence. So we're back to the key of E minor. Oh, gee, I made a mess of this right here. I'm just going to put it up here again. 3 equals subtonic 7 in E minor. Okay? All right. Last phrase from the matching 3. And then we have our sort of epilogue one right there. I hope this has been on camera the whole time. I must admit that this stand has moved around a bit. Maybe I'll just take a second for you to see that again. 5, a real 5 going to 1, but then C sharp diminished, C sharp half diminished is of D, right? And whether or not you call this 6 chord in this key, or pivot and call it 3 there, or you call this 7 diminished, half diminished 7 of 3 with a D chord, and 3 equals 7, subtonic 7, then we pivoted back to the key of E minor, 2 half diminished to a 5, 1, 5, half cadence. All right, which says we're not done yet. Let's keep going, although it keeps poking at that B major chord by doing that. All right, let's take a look here. So my last phrase before the epilogue phrase, I'm still in E minor, so 1. And this truly does feel like E minor. See all the C naturals? It's on the way up as part of like a, what's the word, like a melodic minor kind of thing, avoiding some augmented seconds and stuff like that. But this is the first phrase that really feels like it's in E minor for any amount of time, because this will be my 6 chord right there, right? And then this will be my A minor chord, which will be my 4 chord right there. It's even giving it to us in root positions, which is nice. And then this is my G chord, which is my 3 relative major right there, again in root position. And then we're gonna, go to a cadence and it gets us out of here. So this is F sharp, A, C sharp, F sharp minor, right? This is a little weird because it's a minor 2 instead of a diminished 2, right? And it's in first inversion. But the reason is because we're using the melodic minor up, so your 6 gets raised up, and instead of a diminished 2. So I'm just going to put MM for melodic minor, right? And if you really want to get into it, this is the G, B, D sharp, F sharp chord, which is the G augmented major 7. I don't know what that means. Like, it's fine. The G sharp leads us into the F sharp is going to lead us into the G, which is there, and the D sharp is going to lead us to here, and the B's. There's a bunch of sort of leading tone things. I just think it's a consequence of the melodic minor. That's all, because this is stepping up, and this is neighboring down, and this is stepping up, but it's doing with the melodic minor, and these 2 chromatic notes from the melodic minor just give us some funny chords. That's all, right? Okay, and then A is 4, and then this is raised, so it's my true 5, and then 1. So it kind of ends this saying like, yeah, we're mortal men. We suck. And then the last one says, okay, but E becomes a major chord. Now, you can call it 5 of 4, right? Or you can just, that's in the key of E minor. Or you can just straight up say, no, we're in the key of B minor again, because it's our last thing. I'm just going to play this real quick, this last little bit here, into there for you, so you can hear the change, right? So we get to the end of the second line. I'll start on the A minor chord right there. It's one of those ones where you have, right? And here's my B, and then there, right? And you kind of go like, is that the end of it? And then it's like there's an after scene. And it's like, no, there we go. Hopeful things going on there. So right from the beginning, this is uplifting, is leading tone into there, And that's uplifting us into a leading tone into there, right? And this is a leading tone into there, right? And then this is my leading tone into there. It's all this lifting, and the line is so high. It's got nothing to do with the harmonies, I guess, like per se, but there's all these elements that are just, you know, important to the character of this. So, you know, we're just going to say we're in the key of B. Oh, sorry, 5/4. This would be subtonic 7, wouldn't it? Here. So you could just say that this is 5 of subtonic 7 in the key of B, right? And then here is my subtonic 7, right? Which is the, what should I say? With this, it could be a 7, so you could put a 2 there, right? Which is the 5 of that, which is 3, right? Just as an aside, that's the progression that we had at the beginning in the other key, right? It's like a better version of it. So, and then this is sort of traveling in between. So this is subtonic 7, right? This is minor 5, right? It's not pushing us to the 1 chord, so it's just going to be a minor 5. So subtonic 7 to minor 5, and then finally 3 right there. There's my major 7th again. It's not right on the beat, so it's not quite as like stuck and hard, but it's still the flavors there, right? And then this is my 4 chord right there, and this on the in-betweens makes a F dominant 7, which is my 5/7. And here is something Bach does when he wants to be particularly sweet. That's a major 6 chord, and this is a deceptive progression, right? It's like a deceptive cadence, but it's not. The cadence keeps going on, and it's particularly sweet in the minor key because it goes up to a half step from the 5 chord, and it's a major chord you go to, right? And then jump down here. You can think of it as changing tones like we've done before, or you can think of it as a E minor 7, which would be my 4 chord, and then we have our cadence right there. And now that you can hear all those things, I'm just going to play from here one more time so you can hear that transition. So I'm on my A minor chord, last measure of that, and obviously if you're not here for this, you turned off the video and you're fine, and here's my half cadence, or authentic cadence into the minor. And it's like, oh no, fade to black. But then it's like, no, there's more. Hope. That's my major 7 on the D chord right there, the relative major, right? And then here's my dominant, and here's my deceptive progression, right? And then we get, to the end. And then we get that redeemed happy ending, right? So, yeah. This one turned out to be about 24 minutes long. Okay. Well, I'm a big fan of this. More like I'm enchanted by the sound. And if you're going like, your piano playing just doesn't do it for me, it shouldn't. So just hop over and find this being performed by a really great group. And you can listen to the little cantata, or you can just go to the 7th part, which is the chorale, and listen to this. It's gorgeous, and these things really come out when they're sung and when they're doubled by instruments and things like that. But for me, getting through the cadences and the harmonies and all these kind of things and all that is not so I can feel like I understand the text better, although that happens, but it allows me to say, well, okay, so it's a this chord and a this chord and a this chord and this chord. But then when I see on top of that how it's voiced, the ranges, the smoothness, the different things, it helps me hear and understand, like gives me something to listen to and for and call all the beautiful sounds that I hear in this, right? Like it gives me no amount of joy to see that, like I said before, that C sharp there, the 7th on the D major chord, have it come back again right there. It's great to see this original thing start up again there, but a nicer kind of version of it. And this here echoes there, but it's embellished with the 5 chord there. I love the sound at the end, and it's like, I've done this enough now that I go like it's a deceptive progression, but it's so great to see, he does this in more than, like lots of different places, but it's only when he wants to be particularly hopeful or tender or merciful or something. And so, now that I've analyzed it, now that I made a video on it and stuff, then when I listen to this or noodle through it, play through it, I hear those things and I see them. And so I hope, you go like, this has been fun, or at least you got something profitable out of it. If you're a student and you're like, I just needed this chord progression down, I needed it interpreted, that's great. I always want, to add that value. I don't think you're circumventing your teacher's assignment by going out and finding things. And I hope you got stuff out of this. And if you're doing it out of general interest, great too. If you're a teacher and you're looking for a resource, good. So, yeah, anyhow. Well, that's that there. It's one of my favorites. I guess you probably knew that from what I've been gushing on about it. But, yeah, hope you enjoyed. I'm sure we'll be back within the next, I don't know, like 3-4 days, a weekend of this, to do the next one. So I'm just going to keep marching through these until I run out of time. There's too many to run out to actually run out of stuff to do, though. So have a great day. Talk to you later.